So today we're going to look at how to log in and manage work requests in the Lincoln Harris VUE system. So we'll go to the home page, which is vue.lincolnharris.com. We'll click the login button in the top right screen. You'll enter your username and password that you should have received in a welcome email. This screen is not visible to everybody. Once you log in, the first thing you'll see is a VUE welcome screen. It has 3 columns. The first column is your info, where you can edit your profile, you can edit your phone number, change the notification settings in your default building. You can see the contact information for support. This will be the Lincoln Harris Help Desk if you have any issues with the application or questions on how to use it. You can see recent help updates. So you hear that M0225 is how to access your training and quiz. The middle column is an overview of your data. You can see we here have work requests. I have 70 pending requests. That means there's 70 requests that need to be approved or reviewed. And this is the test system, so there's a lot of old data in here. It also gives you an overview of what type of work requests are outstanding. So you can see electrical, HVAC, and lighting. We can look at tenant lease expirations, vendor insurance expirations, and contract expirations. There's also a third column that's not visible right now, but it just shows you recent updates to data in the system, such as a request that was overdue, a new vendor being added to the system, a new request added to your pool of facilities. And once we add a request, I may come back to this and show you that it does indeed show an update to a request. So what we'll do next is click on the service desk. The service desk is where you'll spend most of your time updating requests, looking at equipment information, and adding labor to your request. The first screen you see is the home/welcome screen for the service desk. We have requests. If you have the ability to review and approve tenant requests, you'll have this request tab. You can see this teal box down the left of the grid is the status indicator. You'll see that throughout the system. This is designating that this request is a pending request, which means it needs reviewed and approved before it actually becomes a true work order. The next tab is the legacy request. It's something we're phasing out, so you don't have to worry about that. The third tab is My Work Orders. Click on that, and it's showing you work orders that are assigned to you or you're in the notification group. So it's assigned to you, or you've accepted it, and it's in your notification group. You can see, once again, this is the old system, so it's showing everything is overdue. We can look down and see the work request number. If you want to look at this request, you click on the work request number. You can see the status, building ID, the work code, which is the problem, or the summary of the problem or work type. The tenant that requested the work. This is a PM, so it doesn't really have a tenant. The date it was requested, the floor, and the location. The next tab is the expiring tab. It shows you things that are expiring or has expired. And everything's expired. Once again, it's a test system. And the last tab is the mobile updates tab, which if you make changes from the mobile app, any changes you make today, it will list those requests in this list to give you easy access to them. So if you make changes on your mobile app and you want to come back and add additional details or review the request again, it's just a quick bookmark type of interface for finding those requests. We have the next thing in the menu is change facility. In some areas of the system, we allow you to change the facility, which pretty much reconfigures all the data on the screen to that one facility. And it kind of resets your default facility. So when you first log in, you have a default facility, but this kind of changes the system to a different default just temporarily. Charges. Not everybody has access to charges, but it's the charges that we bill to the tenants or the owners of the building. Contacts is where you can go look at contacts for a building and or employees. You can see search for Chris, and I'll pull up my profile. If I find it, there we go. And it has my information in here, and you can look at the details, and you can see here I'm an employee, and I started on this date. We have some notification categories. It allows us to do blast emails and assignments. You can see what items this employee or contact belongs to. Equipment, you can look at the equipment list for a facility. Here's the equipment list. There's all the equipment based on the building. You can change the building up in the top right corner. Preventive maintenance, it shows you the preventive maintenance schedule by week. You can look at the current week or change it to a different week to see what PMs are active or coming out in the future. Tasks is the instructions and schedules for PMs. This is where you go create the instructions, set the frequency, look at what equipment is assigned, and you can also look at the history of the PMs. Timesheet, I'm not sure if every account uses this, but this is where you can go in and enter times that you're not actually working. And what that does is it adjusts our man-hour reports to not dock you for being off that day. Work orders is where you're going to spend most of your time. And in the work order section, we have list, which is similar to what we saw on the home screen, a list of work requests with some summary data. We have the add new, where you would go add a new request. Search, which is our smart search. We can go enter lots of filtering details and find specific requests or groups of requests. An aging report shows you how work requests and how long they've been open. Look and see. Once again, this is all data. Everything's 90 plus days. And not everybody has access to the assignment manager, which allows us to reassign work. If there's changes to routes or employee changes at locations, we can reassign work to the new employees or reassign unassigned work to employees. So let's get started with the work order list. Let's go back to work order list. So very similar to the home screen for the service desk, we have a done button, which done exits the page. It doesn't actually save anything, and we have an add button, which would allow us to create a new request, which is the exact same thing as clicking add new here. We can look, once again, we have a status indicator column, we have overdue, we have complete. If it was a new request that was created today, it would be blue, and then a normal request is gray. If we wanted to print some work orders, we can check these boxes and then click print up here, or select all and click print. It would show us a quick report of these requests that we selected. As we go across the columns, we have the work order number. We click on the work order number to look at the details of the request. You can see the status of the request, what location it is, the work code, the tenant that made the request, the date requested, the floor, the location on that floor, and who is assigned or who has accepted the request. So let's click on a work order and look at the details. And from here we have, once again, we have the done button. We have the edit request, which allows us to edit the status and the original details of the request. We have the add button, which once again allows us to add a new request. We have the print button. We can print the details of this request. And the notify button allows us to notify people that are in the notification list, such as the requester or the employees. We'll go more into that once we get to the dispatch tab. So let's take a look at the different sections of the request. We have the status, which is the status, the remark, and the dates. We have the requester, who is what facility it is, what tenant it is, who the contact is, and their location information. The request information, which is the work code or problem type, the category of that work code, is it a complaint, and what is the priority, and the actual overall description of the request. And at the bottom we have assignment and accounting. So assignments is who was manually assigned to the account to the work request by the dispatcher, if there is one, or who has, or based on the SLA, or who has accepted the request from the mobile app and taken responsibility for this work request. What shop is it responsible for the request? Engineering. In most cases, it will be engineering. In some cases, it could be janitorial. Who the property manager is for this location, and you can also assign vendors to the request, and that if a vendor was assigned, their information would be here. The accounting information, which is billable, the general ledger account, the accounting code that this will be billed back to, and the sub account if any is applicable. And in some cases, we may have a tenant work request number or a client work request number, which would tie back to that system. Let's take a look at the next tab, which is action taken. So once you have a request and you take action on that request, so say you have a request that's, actually let's look at this is a door hardware handle problem. So you could say here, I went out and looked at the request. So we went to the site, noticed that it was a loose handle, and we repaired the handle. So once we put in our note, do you want to make this comment accessible by the requester? If so, leave this unchecked. If you want to make it private, so if you're making a comment about private saying this looks like it was abuse or something like that, you could check the box and the tenant would never see, or the requester would never see that comment. We'll click save. Now that comment has been saved. You can see here what the date and time it was saved, the record number, and we can click add to add another comment if we want. So let's click add. We'll add another comment just to show you another feature of this form. We can click a default action. What these are pre-populated canned actions by the facility management team, and you can use these anytime you want. So say it was an HVAC problem, we would come down here and say HVAC, adjust the T-stat, click select, and it would dump it into the action taken box, and we just click save. I'm not going to save that right now, so we'll click close. You can see here my comment that I just added is there with the date. You can see here, like I said earlier, the status indicator is that it's the new comment. You can also look over here who made the comment and whether or not it's office use only or private. Next thing you'll do typically with a request is you'll add your labor. So we'll come in here, we see the total charges that are currently on this work request, and this is all because we use this one for tests frequently. But you can see here in the labor section, there's already 3 employees with labor. Our labor is tracked by transaction, so you can put multiple transactions per day, per week. Everything's date stamped. So what we'll do is we'll come over here and click add labor. We'll select an employee. We'll select the type. In some cases it may be NA or non-billable. We can override a rate if we wanted to, but I'll just go ahead and put, I worked on it a half hour, 0.5, and click save. And there's my new 0.5 hours. And once again, the status indicator is new. Say I made a mistake and I want to adjust that. I can come in here and click edit and change it to 0.75. There we go. And if there was any cost to that, it would add that cost to the labor and the total cost of the work order. We could also add a vendor invoice by clicking add. And you would enter a date, select the vendor, enter the invoice number, enter the description of the invoice, the amount, the markup percentage. Some buildings have a default markup percentage. It would dump that in here if that was set up. And once you fill all that out, you would click save, and that would add it to the work request. Materials is very similar. You would click add material. Let's go ahead and add a part. Hopefully this building has parts. It does not. But you could select a part from the inventory. It would dump in the description. You could change the quantity, and it would adjust the unit price. You click save. If this was a PM, it would show you details about the PM. We'll go back and we'll look at a PM later so you can see some of the details of that. It would list the PM details, the week, the task it belongs to, the frequency, and it would list any equipment that was related to that PM. But if you are, say this door request was a piece of equipment, you could, and you're tracking individual doors, you could go add that individual door to this request so you can track when that door was touched. So we could click add, I'll just add this AHU for an example, but now this AHU is attached to this work request, and when you go look at that piece of equipment under the equipment section, this work order would now show up in that history. You can click remove if you want to remove this piece of equipment if you made a mistake. So related is you can actually link work requests together. So if a work request was submitted for this door last week, and you were out there last week and addressed the same exact door, you could actually attach that work request from last week to this request, just so you know going forward that there's an issue with this door. Now you would just click link work order, and it allows you to enter a work order number and click link. Or you could create, if you know there's a new issue with this door, you could replicate it, and what it does is it creates a copy of this request as a new request and links these two together. The dispatch tab shows you everybody that kind of gets notified or is responsible for this request, and also the history of the changes to this request. You can see that Quentin Sisler is assigned to this request. He was first notified on this date. Mike Hill is also assigned to this request. He's a requester. And so anytime you would hit the notify button, it would notify these people of the changes, or you can come to the dispatch tab and notify them individually. You can also add a specific notificant if you want to add somebody new to the pool that wasn't originally assigned or is the requester of the work. We'll look down here real quick. You can see the date and time that the work request was created, when the status was updated, when labor was added, when action was added. You can see here, this is what we just changed. We added labor, and then we modified the labor. So let's go back to the first tab. So we've gone through, we've added our action, we've added our chargers, we've added our equipment. Now what we can do is we can complete the request. So we'll come back here, we'll click Edit Request, and we can change the status to completed. We can change the priority if we want. If we want to put the work request on hold, we could do that by using the remarks. But if we want to just complete the request, we can come here and click completed or change the drop-down box to completed. But either way, I clicked the completed button. You can see it changed the status to completed, inserted a date and timestamp. So let's go back and do that again, do it the other way. Click Edit Request. Now change the drop-down to completed, and it does the same thing. It dumps in a date, time. If I wanted to close the request at the same time, we click Close button or change this to close, and it would put a date and timestamp for closed. If this request was not, if you went to the site and you realized it was not a door hardware problem, it was actually an automatic door issue, then you could actually change the work code to an automatic door issue, and so that way you have the right SLA, the right time parameters to complete the request, and also the reporting would be correct. And here's where you would also assign a vendor. Some of these fields, based on permissions, you may not have permission to edit accounting information. You may not have ability to reassign a request to somebody else. So let's go ahead and click Save on this. Now the work request is complete. If we go back to the list, see that the work request is complete. So let's create a new request. We'll go to click Add New. We will select the tenant. Select Lincoln Harris Management. We'll pick an employee. We could add a floor if we wanted to. We'll select the work code, carpet and flooring. Coffee spilled on the carpet. And we could fill out accounting information if necessary. We'll leave it as the default tenant request. We'll leave it as the default priority. In some cases, the work code can drive the priority and lock the priority. We'll mark this as non-billable for now. We could manually assign this request to an employee, but in a lot of cases, we want to let the SLA do that. Or if you're creating it for yourself, you could go ahead and assign yourself, and it would override the SLA. And based on this, janitorial shop. So what we'll do now is we'll click save. And if we wanted to add another request right after this, we can click save and add, and it will reset. It will save this request and reset the form. We'll just click save. Now here's our request. So we can go right into editing this request. You can see that the dispatch automatically dispatched it based on the SLA. This SLA was set up to automatically assign the request to Kim Hines. You can see Kim Hines was just notified that this request was out. You can see in the history that it was created and the status was updated. So pretty much what happened was it automatically approved the request based on the SLA. So let's take a look. So we just created this request. So let's log into the mobile app because we know that we need to handle this request. See, no action's been taken, no charges. So let's go look at this request in the mobile app. This is an emulator, so we will log in to the mobile app. And when I log in, I'm set up to it overrides it as Kim Hines. So when we log in, we're actually seeing Kim Hines' work. So logging into the mobile app, you enter your same username and password. On your mobile phone, you want to make sure you check this box. So that way, every time you access the mobile app, you don't have to enter your username and password again. I'll click that. When we log in, we'll run down this really quick. Under Service Desk, you have My Requests, which are the requests that you've accepted or are assigned to you. My Maintenance, which is PMs that you've accepted or assigned to you. Available requests, these are requests for your facilities that are not assigned or accepted by anybody. Expiring requests are your requests that are expiring. Other requests are requests that are assigned or accepted by other employees. So you can go in and actually browse other people's work requests that they're working on or in their queue. And if you have some free time today, you could actually go into other requests, find a request, and take that request from that employee and help them out for the day. And it would be removed from their queue and added to yours. You have search where you can go find a work request by building or work request ID and I think type as well. You can actually look at the vendors that are assigned to your facilities. So let's take a look at My Request. When we go into My Requests, we have a blue indicator here, which means it's a new request. It's a carpet and flooring cleaning request, and this is the request we just created. So let's click on the details of this. We can scroll down and look at other requests if we wanted. But you see here we have the work request number, we have the status, we have the problem category and type, the building code and building name, and who the tenant is. Click on this item. We have the status. We have the request. The status and type. We have the remark. We have the date it was requested, the date that it needs to be completed by, the building information, the tenant, the work category, code, and description, and who is accepted or assigned. So let's go back and look at this. You can see it's not accepted or assigned by anybody, but it shows up in my request list because I'm in the dispatch list. Or Kim Hines is in the dispatch list. So now what will happen is you want to say that I'm accepting this responsibility for this request. I'm getting ready to work on it. So we'll click the accept button. Kim Hines is accepted and we've accepted the request and it date stamps the request. So if you were busy, so if you had multiple people in your location and multiple people were in the dispatch list that were actually employees, you could actually release this request because you're busy, and it would notify the other people in your pool that you released the request and it was now available. But since we accepted it, we're going to go work on it now. Click Edit, and once again, it gives you a quick look at the building name, the tenant, and we'll go ahead and change the status to complete. And we can add the person that entered the request didn't put a location in there. We can say, you pick a location from the pick list, or we can just enter something here, and we'll say main hall. We're not going to, it's carpet, so we're not going to add equipment, and we'll say cleaned floor with solution. And we're going to uncheck the private use only. And we're going to add some labor. We'll do NA and put 15 minutes. Anytime you are working on a request, you always want to track your labor, and you want to put a minimum of 15 minutes on any request that you touch or visit the site. So we've added our comments, we've added some new locations to the request, we've added our 15 minutes, and we'll click Save. So now you can see at the bottom here, this items button changed orange. So if we click on items, we can actually go look at the action we just added. If we added equipment, we could go look at the equipment. So let's look at the action. And here's the comment we just made. So we've completed this request now. So let's go back to the system and go back to the main system. Just to validate our changes. So we'll click on Home New, or the home page. And if my internet connection cooperates. Uh-oh. Oh, okay, there we go. So it didn't update the counter on the top. It's supposed to show 1 here. But because I just updated that request in the mobile interface, it adds it to this bookmarking tab, so I can quickly go back to that request. Or you could search for the request by putting the work request number here. And another thing is, here's actually what a work request email looks like. It gives you, says that work request was completed. It has the work order number and location. Here's your location information, the status, the details of the request, the code. You can see here that the action taken, it has a date stamp, and my comment of clean the floor with solution. And if we would have marked this as office use only or private, the comment would not be on the email. Also, on your mobile phone, if this was a new request, your new request email, actually, let me see if I have the new request. No, I do not. Oh, wait a minute. Is that it? Oh, that was the other request I edited. So here's the new request. So on your phone, at the very bottom of the email is the address. On your phone, when you look at your email on the phone, you can actually click on this address, and it will open up the map to show you the location of this request. A little tip. So now let's go back and look at this mobile update that we made. So now we can click on the work order number, open up the request. We can see now there's an action taken item, 1 action taken item, 1 charge. We'll click on the action. We can see here that our comment is there, that the labor has been added, Kim Hines, 0.25, which was 15 minutes. And then go back to the request tab, and you can see that the work is complete. And if we wanted to go back in and add some additional charges, some additional labor, if we want to add material that we used, because you can't add materials from the mobile client, and this is why we kind of give you quick access back to the request you updated today. You can come back in here and click Add Materials and browse the part list, add your quantity that you used and how much solution you used, if your facility tracks that. And that's a quick update of how you create a request, update the request on your mobile device, and review the data that you updated on your mobile device. So let's go back to the work order list and look at a PM. Hopefully I can find a PM that has some equipment. PM weekly heaters maintenance. Let's look at this PM. And we'll come here and you can see the type is PM. It's open. The remark is work in progress. It's assigned to Kim Hines. And we'll click on the PM equipment tab. You can see here that it's PM week 52 or 25, the date, the week, the date range of that week, what the task is. You could click on the task to go look at the details of the task. And if apparently they don't have equipment assigned to this task, but we could actually go in and add equipment. And we could say heating. Well, just go ahead and add this. That's a hot water heater. All right. We'll just add that for example so that we can add that. And now that piece of equipment that we maintained is added to this request, and this request gets added to the history of that piece of equipment. And so let's go in here and we'll go ahead and add our labor to this. Add labor, select employee, I'll do Kim Hines, NA. We'll leave the rate empty, and standard time, we'll say 1 hour. You can enter overtime if that's the way your chief engineer or operations manager wants you to do it. And we'll click save, and here's my time. We'll go to the edit request button, and we will complete the request. Click save. Oh, because this is an older version, this is a test system, this doesn't have the new thing where it always has engineering in the tenant field. Okay. Oh. You shouldn't have to do this on PMs normally. Now the request is complete. We have our charges, we have our equipment, and that's pretty much it. So now let's go look for a request. So we can go to search. And by default, if we haven't done any searches today, it goes to the Smart Wizard. So we can see here that I'm looking at portfolio is all portfolio, the account is all. I can change the building if I want. Ooh, you see here I have lots of buildings on my list. We can put in a specific date range. We can search by status, by tenant request. Is it a complaint or not? We can look for a particular work code. We can put in part of a work code. Tutorial. We can select the tenant. We can pretty much search for anything. So let's click apply. Well, just because of that, 18. Apply. And now, looking at this year, we have view results. So once I click the view results button, it actually saves whatever my filter is in my profile. And next time I come to this, it will default to my previous search. We'll click view results. Here's my request, and I can print these out into a report if I want to check these, print them out, or we can just start drilling into them. So what we'll do is we'll click on this request. We'll say, okay, what's up with this request? It has some charges on it. Is there any action taken? There's no action taken. And we can go address this request or follow up with that engineer or technician to see what's the status of that request. And now we can go back. If we click search again, it maintains the results of our previous search until we log out. So that way we can keep working on the search results that we just created. Let's look at the aging report real quick, and you can see here if we want to drill into these 11 work requests, tenant requests that are open, or 90 days, more than 90 days old, we can click on that. didn't get changed. Oh yeah, it did. We can click on that and see what's going on with this request. And we'll go ahead and complete this request. Click close this time, and you can see here it changed the request to close, it marked the record closed, it put in date and timestamps for each one of these, and we will click save. And now this request is closed. We go back to search. Oh, that did not work. Oh, I think we have one less. Yeah. That ASTA didn't retain the close because my search was open request. And that's a quick update on how to update a request, create a request, update your request on the mobile app, check the status of the request in the full interface, and open and add details and complete requests in the main interface. Let's go back to the mobile app real quick and look at some other features of this app. So let's click on the home button again. And like I said before, my request, the one thing it does is this request earlier was new. It had a blue bar. Now it has a green bar because it's complete. Items that you complete or close today remains on the mobile app screen until tomorrow. So anything you complete or close tomorrow will not be on the screen. Today will roll off tomorrow. That way you can go back to that request again today and take another look at it, or maybe you want to add some more labor to it. You could go back and add labor to it again by clicking edit. And another thing is, if you have multiple guys working on this request, actually no, you can't do that here. But you could add multiple label records. All you have to do is select your rate, pick your hours, click save, select your rate, pick your hours, click save, and that would create two separate labor instances, transactions. So let's go back to this screen. We can see my maintenance. So let's go look at that. So these are requests that PMs that I have accepted or assigned to me. And we can go down and look at our PMs. This one is complete. Well, that's the one we worked on earlier, the PM heaters. We can go in here and look at that. Click it. There we go. We can go down, scroll down the list, look at the details of the request, and it's been accepted by me, or is assigned to me. I think that's, it's assigned to me. I haven't accepted, but I could mark it as accepted and let the management staff know that I'm working on it. Well, you can see here that the items button is orange, so we can click on items, and you can see that piece of equipment that we added earlier. Go back, and we can see, oops, no action. See that there's a labor record here. So we'll go back to home. So that was my maintenance. And available is requests that are not assigned to anybody. So if my request list is empty, you have 0 results or 0 work requests or work requests that aren't due for a couple weeks, you can actually go to available and find other requests that aren't assigned to you or assigned to anybody, and you can take those requests. So we can come in here and take 1817, whatever that is, and we can scroll down to the bottom. You can see here it says it's available. There's no date accepted. We can click accept, and now this work request will show up in my queue or my list. So 17101. Go back to go back to my request, and 17101. So here's that request I just accepted. So there's no expiring request right now, but expiring just lets you know that some things need to be addressed today. These are things that are going to be expiring, and the SLA is going to fail if we don't take care of that request today. Other requests, once again, are requests that are assigned or accepted by other employees. So if you, once again, have 0 requests in your list and there's 0 available requests, you could come to other requests and browse for requests that are either expiring or have expired and help your fellow employee out. You can go in here and take this request, scroll down to the bottom. You can see, oh, I guess it shows my request too. Maybe we can find another request. It shouldn't show my request. Oh, here we go. You can see here that this request is assigned to Gerald Helms. He accepted it on 5/2. And what we can do is we can click this take button and it would reassign the request to me or Kim Hines, and it would notify Gerald that you have taken that request from him. And then it would add that request to your My Request list. And we'll go back to this system again. So that's pretty much it for the mobile app. If you want to make changes to your profile, or you can go back to the home page, the welcome screen. You can see over here in the welcome screen, we've completed requests. It would have been blue if one of these requests, if we didn't complete the request we created, but it would also have a red box if a request has expired or is about to expire. It would tell you vendor updates. But if you want to make a change to your profile, we can click on My Profile, and you can change your phone number. You can change your default facility. It's the first building you see, or your facility filters are initially set to that when you log in. Your monitor employee, what this monitor employee is, that if you don't have that set, it automatically maps your employee record to your user record when you log in, but you can actually override this with another employee in your list. I have access to all the employees, but if in your queue or your pool of employees, if you had more employees at your facilities, you could actually, if somebody's out sick for the day, you could actually go look at their request real quick to see if something needs to be addressed, or you can use the work request search tool to do the same thing. We also have some notification options. We have a new newsletter where we send out updates about new features, equipment warranty notifications, tenant insurance expirations, vendor insurance expirations, and also whether or not you want to receive tenant requests that haven't been approved yet. So it will let you kind of, if your team decides, hey, we're not going to, these requests need to be approved before you guys actually work on them, then you might not want to receive the notifications. But if your team is saying, hey, most our tenants are pretty good and they usually submit valid requests, then you may want to receive those notifications so you can, if there's an emergency request, you can actually address that before your dispatcher or facility management team has time to review and approve the request. And that's it for our training today. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the tool. Thank you.